Gojo Satoru is known as many things within the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. By his students, he's known as a goofball. By his enemies, he is known as an insurmountable obstacle. By his friends, he is known as an idiot. But one thing that everyone in the verse knows Gojo as is the strongest. No matter who you ask, Gojo will be referred to as a sorcerer that has surpassed the realm of normal humanity and reached a level of power only comparable to natural disasters. With the potential and power to alter the literal balance of the world with his birth, Gojo was always destined for greatness. He was scaring off competent curse users as a mere child, and even Toji Zenin, one of the most powerful characters in Jujutsu Kaisen, found himself startled by the awareness of the six size. Gojo, as a child, was so strong that a fate destroyer like Toji found himself wary of going up against the combination of Gojo clan techniques found within Satoru. While only mastering Infinity and Blue, Gojo was confident enough in his power to consider himself one of the strongest sorcerers alive, and after a fateful encounter with Toji once more, Gojo dipped into a seemingly endless well of potential and emerged from his near-death experience a god amongst men that nobody could even touch. Teleportation, spatial manipulation, existence erasure, infinite stamina, and a myriad of other abilities all contributed to pushing Gojo over the edge and making him unambiguously the strongest creature alive. A sorcerer so strong that his best friend questioned how integral strength was to his very being. A sorcerer so strong that he existed by himself in a place that no one could reach. Even after not having known him for that long, we as the audience get an amazing look into how powerful he must be based on his confidence in just how much the King of Curses himself seems to be looking forward to fighting him. In fact, just by the third chapter of the series, Gege makes it extremely clear to us that Gojo is on an entirely different level, as he makes it clear to Yuji that he wholeheartedly believes that he can thrash Sukuna. When asked by Yuji who would win between the two, Gojo only says that Sukuna would cause him a little trouble, before cockily saying that he would win. Now, while this power is especially important to the maintenance of the status quo in Jujutsu society, because of Gojo's dreams, simply being strong wasn't enough. The betrayal of his best friend and realization of what it takes to truly save someone started Gojo on his journey of teaching, nurturing, and finding suitable allies to change the crappy ways of Jujutsu society and create an army of comrades who could alleviate his own loneliness, and maybe create a world where no one has to be alone like Geto was ever again. Yuta, Maki, Yuji, Megumi, Nobara, Hikari, Todo. Slowly but surely, Gojo was acquiring allies. Slowly but surely, Gojo's dream was being realized. In fact, a large portion of what makes up Jujutsu Kaisen as we know it is simply the plans of Gojo being manifested through our main characters. Yuji's development with Sukuna and Jujutsu sorcery as a whole, Yuta's entire reason for being alive as a special grade, and Megumi's relationship within his own sense of self and potential are some of the bigger aspects of what make up this story. And while I'm not typically one to give credit for multiple people's actions to one singular individual, it can definitely be said that Gojo was at least a major catalyst for the series' existence as we currently know it. The relative peace that existed in the sorcery world for so long was because Gojo's strength was holding that wave of power back, and when that wave eventually came crashing down, when it was eventually too much for even him alone, Gojo made sure to have the proper infrastructure in place to handle that wave, keeping Megumi away from the Zenin clan, training Yuta to handle Rika, and fostering an environment for young sorcerers to learn and thrive was the infrastructure he needed to combat the new level of curses that were emerging. Something as fundamental to the series as saving Yuji's life and preserving him as a vessel for Sukuna was, at the end of the day, because of Gojo and his ability to throw his weight around with the higher-ups. Gojo was hands down the most influential sorcerer for a long stretch stretch of time, and it's clear to see that by most people's standards, he had it all. His character design, juvenile personality, initially mysterious backstory, and overwhelming strength and confidence made it nearly impossible to not like Gojo as a fan. And when you top it all off with the underlying tragedy that goes on in his world, well, you get a character like Gojo, who by himself can move masses to consume a series. The only person I can think of who didn't like Gojo is Gege himself, which is extremely funny considering he's the one who made him such a critical character to the series, but even that speaks to how powerful Gojo is on a meta level. This guy was so powerful that not only the writer had to figure out a way to get him out of the series, but the main antagonist of the manga could not move forward with their plans simply because he was too strong. And rather than confront him outright, Gojo had to be taken down via a series of extremely precise and underhanded strategies. The only way this character could be removed from the story was through thousands of years of planning and scheming and a little bit of emotional manipulation at the hands of Kenjaku, someone who was in the body of another special grade, and a character who could also be argued to be top 3 in terms of story impact. Through his numerous tricks and tactics, Kenjaku was able to force Gojo to suppress himself and limit the full extent of his abilities for the sake of civilians around him. By making a character who was at his strongest when alone become surrounded by random cannon fodder, Kenjaku lessened Gojo's options and pressured him to the extreme so that just for a mere instant, Gojo would stop and be unable to act. Seeing the body of his dead best friend, Gojo was completely frozen. In this mere moment of hesitation, the strongest sorcerer alive was helpless to do anything and was sealed away with the prison realm. For 3 years, Jujutsu Kaisen fans could not see Gojo. For 3 years, we had to sit back and watch as all hell broke loose in the world. For 3 years, Gojo was sealed. But as of now, as of Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 221, Gojo is back. The wait has been long and hard for the characters and for the fans, but Gege absolutely did not disappoint with what we got in this chapter, man. The first half of it is dedicated towards showing us all of our allies finally using Angel's technique to unseal Gojo from the prison realm. The anticipation at this point builds for 10 pages straight without seeing Gojo, and then he appears. Gojo fucking Satoru appears in all of his glory, looking down on Kenjaku with the same angelic presence he had when breaking the barrier in the Goodwill arc. With all of the hopelessness that was present in the Culling game, with Sumiki dying, Tengen getting absorbed, Sukuna incarnating into Megumi, all of the fear and worry I had for my favorite characters immediately dissipated when Gojo came on screen. I felt like everything was going to be alright. For a brief moment, as crazy as this sounds, with Gojo on screen, I felt at peace. In spite of all the chaos that had been going on up to this point, merely Gojo's presence was able to cause a strange calmness for me. This sense of peace was quickly replaced by pure hype and adrenaline though, as Gojo started talking shit to Kenjaku and getting ready to put this body-hopping bum into a pack. You can tell Kenjaku was nervous because you can see him dripping with sweat the moment that Gojo even moves a muscle. Just a casual attack from Gojo has this 1,000-year-old special grade shit talker frightened, and oh my god, was it cathartic to see that. Finally, Kenjaku's hot streak of arrogance has gotten shut down for a bit, and who else to do it but Gojo. Seeing that Gojo had pulled up, Sukuna immediately joins the party himself, clashing with Gojo, showing off his brand new vessel. Now, despite the fact that Megumi's body was taken over, he doesn't seem too fazed by this and keeps talking his shit, cause even after the Ryomen Sukuna says that he will finish him, Gojo does not take him seriously and simply calls him a loser who had to run away from Yuji. And y'all, I'ma be honest, as someone who thinks that Sukuna is an excellent trash talker, Gojo just bodied him right then and there. And Arame knew it too, cause she got real mad when Gojo said that and tried to run up on him, only to get hit with one of the meanest punches in the entire series. This punch was so visceral and brutal, and I would say that it is on par with the hit that Sukuna landed on Yuji back in chapter 213 in terms of how much that looks like it hurt. To add insult to injury, mid-punch, Gojo was asking who Arame is, and bro, I feel bad for anyone that has Arame stocks right now. She's definitely really strong, and I have no doubt that she's going to have an entertaining fight when she bounces back, but trying to mess with Gojo while not being named Sukuna is just a recipe for disaster at this point, which is why she's unconscious in the corner and Gojo is chilling just talking to Sukuna and Kenjaku like there's some insects. Anyways, after bodying that ice nobody, Gojo talks a little more crap about Sukuna acting as Kenjaku's underling before saying that they should not have their battle here, but on December 24th, so that way Geto's death only has one anniversary date. Another absolutely cold line from Gojo, and the chapter ends off with a real banger, as when asked by Kenjaku if he could win against them, when Kenjaku is shaking in his boots wondering if Gojo really has that much confidence, he thinks back to Yuji's question all the way back in chapter 3, over 200 chapters ago, and answers with the same overwhelmingly infectious confidence. Gojo's sure he'll win, and the possibility of defeat doesn't even seem to enter his mind. Now, aside from what Gojo very obviously verbalizes in this chapter, it's pretty unclear as to what his mental state is, and as brought up in the beginning half, it's kind of hard to say how long he perceived himself to be in the box. It could have been a mere instant to him, but it could have also felt like an entire century, which really calls into question Gojo's internal state of being and just how this guy is so calm. And with Gege not giving us another chapter until May 14th, it's clear we will not be getting answers to these questions for a while. One thing I will say that is apparent though is that Gojo is significantly more in character than I expected. He definitely is the Gojo of before, seeing as how he still has his juvenile personality and supreme confidence in himself. Well, over a year ago, I speculated that Gojo would be coming out of the prison realm blinded by rage. I think Gege having a beloved character return in the same fashion that he left works really well. Sure, a feral, bloodlusted Gojo would be sick, but there is something that's unnerving about him being so calm about everything. This extreme sense of tranquility on Gojo's end might be even scarier than if he came out angry. In any case, now that the date of the final battle has been set, and Gojo has seen all of the antagonistic forces, I feel what the next chapters are going to cover is Gojo reconvening with his students and fully getting caught up on what had happened in his absence. It has only been 19 days in Jujutsu Kaisen since his sealing, but so much has happened since then. Nanami died, Nobara died, Yaga died, the entire Zenin clan was slaughtered, Maki has become like the very man who nearly killed Gojo, Yuji considers himself a mass murderer, and there is just so much that Gojo has missed in this 19-day span, and I imagine that Gege will explore him finding out about those things and dealing with them in his own Gojo-like way. Overall, this chapter was amazing, easily a 10 out of 10, and one of the most cathartic we've gotten in a while. Over the past few weeks, Gege has been making some writing decisions that I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been the biggest fan of in relation to some characters and pacing, but when he puts out chapters like this, it's hard to deny that Gege is one of the best in Shonen Jump right now. With just 20 pages, Gege has completely shifted the tone and potential directions that the story can take from here on out, and I'm really just so excited to see what Gojo being back continues to do for the story. The strongest sorcerer alive has re-entered the fray, and with him, he brought an amazing chapter of manga.